Welcome to lesson number 3. I'm Richard Nygaard with subliminalscience.com, and I'm very happy that you've decided to participate in this course. In this third lesson, I'm going to focus on what I think is an essential NLP pattern that every hypnotist and every NLP practitioner needs to know, and that is called the Ecology check pattern. Now, here's one of the interesting things. I think this is one of the most essential and most important NLP patterns. But when I've gone to NLP training, I've been to trainings where I've never heard this discussed. When I watch NLP and hypnosis practitioners who are integrating NLP into their work, do their work, I often am looking for the Ecology check pattern, and I don't see it from a lot of people. Well, that being said, there are those who certainly do utilize it, but I think it's an essential strategy. It can be utilized alone as a sort of a standalone intervention, but it can also be, and this is the way I use it most of the time, at the end of another pattern, to make sure that things are congruent for the client. Because if a client comes to your office and they've decided to make a change and we leave with the belief that they have made that change, but there's an incongruency within them, that's where our clients end up smoking between sessions, or eating a giant box of Twinkies, or not getting on the plane they bought a plane ticket to even though they've been hypnotized for fear of flying. I think it is one of the most useful but often overlooked NLP patterns. And I utilize it with almost all of the clients who I work with. It is also something that we can utilize, and in many cases I do, before a client goes into a process of change. The reason why we would do this before a client goes into a process of change, rather than after a process of change, is to make sure that what we're changing is actually broken. In other words, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And a lot of therapy, particularly traditional counseling, traditional psychotherapy, is just about a fishing expert. It's about looking for problems that aren't problems for the client that we think need fixing. If I have a client who's undergoing a very big change, I spent about 10 years working full-time as a drug and alcohol counselor back in the 90s. And if I have a client who's contemplating a big change, like becoming sober, or I have a client I'm a family therapist planning to get divorced, or I have some other, big, it doesn't have to be negative, it can be a positive thing, going back to graduate school. It can be a useful strategy to really help a person to achieve their greatest level of potential and find out whether or not a proposed change will actually be beneficial to them. There are a number of different steps in the Ecology check pattern. If you download the PDF that accompanies this particular lesson, you'll see in step 1 of the Ecology check pattern, we want our client to associate fully into the present, having a mindful experience, mindfully experiencing life as it is at this moment. I believe that in almost all of our therapeutic, coaching, and hypnosis work, that staying in the present as much as possible is advantageous to the client. So I almost always want to begin every process with a mindful awareness of the present. A non-judgmental, non-shaming awareness and experience of being present. So that's step 1. Step 2 in this process then, and again I often do this informal trance with the eyes closed after doing an induction, a progressive muscle relaxation induction or some other form of induction. Or again, I can do an Ecology check pattern without a formal induction by just asking my clients in step 2 to close their eyes and to identify the proposed change. What change is it you would like to make? Go back to graduate school, get divorced, quit smoking, whatever change it is. Step 2 is simple. Identify and describe that proposed change. In step 3, I want to move the client then to a second or a third perceptual position. That's why I started this lesson, or series of lessons, really lesson number 2, with the perceptual position. You're going to find that I'm going to utilize that throughout our work, so that the client can observe themselves from outside of themselves as if they have already made the changes. It's one of the valuable things about the perceptual position process. In step 4, I'm going to interact with my clients. I'm going to explore questions about the proposed change. And a lot of new hypnotists in particular wonder, what happens if I talk to my clients? Are they going to come out of trance? No, they're going to talk to you. Everybody's always in trance. We don't bring somebody into trance. We don't actually hypnotize people. What we're really doing is utilizing naturally occurring trance states. Many of our trance states occur while we're talking. So you can talk to your clients anytime you want to. What are your limitations in making this change? How do you feel when you think about making the change? Do you like or dislike that change? Here's a great question that comes from solution-focused brief therapy, one of my favorite approaches. How will you know if you're successful at making the change? It's really an important question. If you're going to make a change, how will you know that you've been successful? What would it feel like to you? What would it look like? How would you represent that? That's one of the ways that we can actually set goals in therapy, coaching, counseling, hypnosis, by knowing how a client would define success if they were to experience it. And then in the classic NLP pattern, ecology check, we go into what are called Cartesian questions. There are 4 Cartesian questions. What will happen if you do fill in the blank? What won't happen if you do fill in the blank? What will happen if you don't do fill in the blank? What won't happen if you don't do fill in the blank? And these Cartesian questions, there's a little chart in the handout that I provided for you with the Cartesian coordinates and these 4 questions, really help my client to explore from a number of different perspectives the meaning of the change that they're about to undertake. Step 6 in the process is to then make a decision. To make a decision to pursue change or to stay the same. This is the ecology check. We could add a 7th one, but I think it's really reflected through the other 6, and that is, are you congruent with this? You've made that decision. Are we ready to take action on it and move into another process? Do you feel congruent with that? Are you accepting of that? By the way, sometimes we're not happy about the decisions we need to make. Sometimes we can only be accepting about the decisions we have to make. I'm going to demonstrate this process with Alex so you can see how it might be done with a client in our office. Now, Alex, you've got some ideas for making some pretty big changes in life here, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Tell me, what have you been thinking of changing?
Well, I suffer from pretty severe test anxiety. It's really bombing my grades. I can't do school. So I had plans to go to OU and be an honors student because, that was my goal.
They accepted you, though.
They did, but I can't do it. So I've been thinking about it. I've applied for a job at the gas station down the street, and I think I'm just going to ditch school and work full time and drop out.
And so you're trying to decide if dropping out of high school your senior year before you go off to honors college is something that you should pursue.
Yeah.
Okay. You can tell we've created an artificial scenario here, but these are the kind of discussions they're going to have with clients. Sometimes they are really on the verge of making some decisions that can have lifelong consequences for them. So even though I suppose we're having this up a little tiny bit, the reality is this is actually the kind of scenario with the cognitive errors and the misbeliefs that I've heard from Alex already, our clients really do share with us. So let's go through the ecology check. Okay, and an ecology check, Alex, is just a way for me to help you answer some questions that will help you to decide whether or not this is something you really want to do, and whether or not it's something I should help you with. Okay? Because my job here is not to tell you, oh, you should go to OU Honors College, you shouldn't work at a gas station. My job is actually to help you be the best you that you can possibly be, no matter where that scenario is. I think we can be called to work anywhere. So I really want to have no judgment as I help my clients evaluate their decisions. I really think that is a humanistic approach that's really pretty important. But I was going to go through what we would call an ecology check to help you really kind of look at this from some new vantage points. So go ahead and close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out and pay attention to the breath. Mindfully be present here in this chair with your hands on your lap, your purple shirt, and your brown tennis shoes. And as you breathe in and breathe out, here in the safety of my office, simply be fully present here in the office. It's almost as if when you walked in the door, you left all of the stress, all of the decisions, all of the difficulties far away from this room and this chair. All you have is this moment. And in this moment, things are actually pretty okay. Continue to breathe in, Alex, and breathe out. And as you breathe in and breathe out, be fully present in this chair at this moment. Now, think about the change that you have contemplated. And as you think about the change that you've contemplated, try to articulate that change in your own mind or even out loud into a bite-sized explanation. What change is it that you're proposing to make, Alex?
An easier one.
Okay. And what would that easier one be?
Leaving school and working full-time.
Okay. And as you breathe in and breathe out here in this chair, articulating that proposed change, I'd like you to imagine that another you is able to float outside of you and move all the way across the room to the other side of the room, where it can observe you here in the chair, contemplating that change of dropping out of school and working at the convenience store. Are you able to do that? To move so another you can watch you sitting in this chair contemplating that change, that decision? Awesome. You're doing great. Let's talk a little bit about this change, Alex. How do you feel about making the change? What emotions do you feel? When the you on the other side of the room is watching you, what does the other you see you feeling?
Relief. A little bit of nervousness.
Okay.
Mainly a release.
Okay, a release. Okay. Do you like the idea of being a dropout?
Not when you put it like that.
How about the other you across the room watching you? What does that other you think about that decision to drop out?
That me doesn't love the idea of dropping out.
Okay, if it doesn't love the idea, what does it do?
It likes the idea of not having the other kind of stress from school.
Well, let me ask you some questions, Alex. Question number one. What will happen if you do drop out of school and get the job at the gas station?
Well, all my friends are going to college.
Okay. Or is any of them going to the gas station?
Not that I know
Okay. So if you don't go to college and drop out of school, what will happen?
I won't continue to get an education anymore.
Okay.
Well, that'll probably strain things with my family.
So what won't happen? What won't happen? It's kind of the opposite question. What won't happen if you drop out of school?
I won't get the degree that I wanted. I won't be able to work in the field that I wanted to work in.
What field do you want to work in?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a hypnotist?
No.
Okay. What will happen if you don't drop out of school? What will happen if you don't drop out of school? If you go off to college? If you complete that honors program?
Well,
What will happen if you don't follow this plan?
if I go to college, I might have more panic episodes. It'll be really, really hard. But I also, if I complete the program, will be able to go for my job.
Okay. A job in business?
Yeah,
Okay. Maybe running a gas station.
maybe.
Or a whole bunch of gas stations.
Make more money.
What won't happen if you don't drop out of school? What won't happen if you don't drop out of school?
Well, I have less likelihood of, staying with a low-income job.
Okay.
I won't lose the family connections, the friend connections.
Now you've taken a few minutes and you've really explored this idea in your own mind, both as you here in the chair and as you outside of you watching you. What would the you outside of you tell you about what you should do? Of what decision you should make?
I would probably tend to lean towards staying in school.
And the you here in that chair, even though the you here in the chair fears those tests, what do you really want to do? Now that you've explored these Cartesian coordinates and seen things from another vantage point.
I want to stay.
In school?
Yes.
And so, by going through this process, Alex, do you feel comfortable staying in school, even if it means you might have anxiety?
I think so.
So my real value to you then is probably not helping you make the decision to pump gas, but helping you learn to be calm and relaxed. And access that part of you which right here, right now, in this chair, seems to be at peace with a calm and regular heart rate, a smooth and rhythmic breath. What if during exams you felt like this then?
I would probably do a lot better.
Awesome. And one of the great things about the state that you've created here in this short ecology check pattern, Alex, is not a state that I've created, but a state that you've created by simply allowing yourself to explore things from a new vantage point. But it's one that you can return yourself to at any point, one of confidence in your decision to stay in school. And so, take any time that you need right now, simply breathe in and breathe out. Bring yourself back fully to your present awareness of that chair below you, your feet on the floor, and your breath. And let anything, either known or unknown, keeping you from accomplishing your true objective. To finish the honors college at OU and feel confident during testing. Simply be lifted at this moment. Ready when I count to 3 to open the eyes, to feel fantastic, and to be ready for the next stage of our coaching, helping you to develop confidence and calm during test-taking periods. 1, 2, 3. Opening the eyes. Feeling fantastic. Feel pretty good, huh?
Yeah.